everyone, this is Amanda Moore from the Angelman Syndrome Foundation, and you're listening to the ASF podcast, the show that explains everything you want to know about Angelman syndrome. We're so excited you're here, and we hope you enjoy the show. For this week's podcast, we have repurposed a webinar that was recorded in years past, but the information is still very much relevant today. We hope this information helps you on your journey. Enjoy the listen. Okay, everyone, we are live with All Things AS with yours truly, Amanda. So glad that you guys are here with us tonight. I am really excited about tonight's guest, and we'll get to her in just a minute. But I thank you all for joining us. I always love seeing all the names. We will do our best to keep up with the live comments that come up, but if we're not able to answer them, we will make sure to go back and answer them at a later date. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Amanda Moore. I am the CEO of the Angelman Syndrome Foundation and proud mom to Jackson, who is 6 with Angelman syndrome. So I'm really excited. If you're joining All About AS for the first time ever, welcome. We do these monthly for families just to get to know different aspects of Angelman syndrome and about supports that we provide. So tonight is all things adult services. And before I get to Robin, I will tell you one of the things that when I first got the job a couple of years ago, we did a survey, and Robin will know this very well. We did a survey and asked the families what we can do better to support the community. And the number one thing that came back the loudest was we need more services and more support for our individuals with individuals with Angelman syndrome who are adults. Because we just didn't really have anything. And honestly, for all those parents, including you, Robin, who have older kids, you guys have paved the way for younger families like us to be able to have all these great resources. So the least we can do is start working on how we can provide supports for our amazing families who have adults with Angelman syndrome. So the first thing we did was look at that information and say, what do we need to do? And we started a task force. So first, before we get into the task force, Robin, if you could introduce yourself to the community, that would be amazing.
Okay, I'm happy to be here. Happy to be here with Amanda especially. So a little bit about me. My family and I live in Oxford, Mississippi, so that explains the southern accent that I have. I've been married for 41 years to my husband, and we have 3 children.
Okay, first of all, 41 years, give me one secret. What's the secret?
41 years. Let me tell you, a lot of support of each other. I can tell you that. We couldn't have made it with the other one not in the,
Okay.
We both too, I'll talk about it in just a second. We both had careers as well. So anyway, it takes we both got degrees after we had Paige even. So we couldn't have done it without family support and each other. So that's all I can say. You have, as everybody knows, you have hills and valleys when you have a 41-year marriage, and you just got to be there when you got to be there is kind of how we've done it. But anyway, we have 3 kids. We have a son who's 38, who's married and has our 3-year-old grandchild, and they live in Oxford. And then we have a son who's 34, who is married and has a 5-year-old, our grandson, and he lives in Franklin, Tennessee, and that's about 4 hours from us. So I'm giving a little history with the family because we're talking about adult resources. And then Paige, our daughter with Angelman syndrome, is 28. So her brothers are 10 years and 6 years older than her. And Paige has the UPD transmission. Okay. She was diagnosed at about 5 years of age. That was with intensive searching. We went to 3 major children's hospitals trying to get a diagnosis. But honestly, Paige was born in 93. There wasn't even a test for the UPD form at that time.
Right.
So she was diagnosed at age 5, actually, because a early intervention teacher noticed her mannerisms were similar to another child she had taught. So that's a little interesting story there. Paige currently, she's for 3 years, has lived in a supervised living home. Okay. And it's about 15 minutes from us. And she lives in a home in a neighborhood. and she has 3 roommates, and they all have their own rooms, and they have 24/7 caregivers. So there's 2 to 3 caregivers all the time, and someone stays awake at night. Paige does need the most support at the home, so she does require the most support at the house. And she also goes to day services Monday through Friday. So she's been there 3 years. We have been really blessed with that. It's been a really positive experience for Paige. It's been really, really hard for her daddy and me.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing, but we thought we needed to do it while we could support her and help her with her transition. And so we've done it, and Paige is very happy. She tells us bye and to leave. Also, professionally, I'm a retired professor of nursing. So I'm a professor of nursing. My husband is a speech and language pathologist, and he did that after Paige was born. So we've been involved with the Angelman Syndrome Foundation and attending conferences since Paige was diagnosed. So at 5, I went to my first conference right after she was diagnosed, and we've been maybe to 10 conferences. We've only missed a couple. And my family and I have been involved a couple of ways. One, I'm a doctorally prepared nurse, so I did research in my career, and I did research with siblings who had a family member with a developmental disability of genetic origin. So I did research. Yeah, I did research with siblings with Down syndrome and with Angelman syndrome and with other developmental disabilities. So I did some presentations at conferences on the research I did with siblings. Drew and I, you may recognize Drew. He's my son who's 34, lives in Franklin. He's been involved with sibling groups now. And he and I have done SIP shops at the last 2 conferences, and it's been wonderful. We've really enjoyed that.
Absolutely.
Also, I've been a family support champion person since the beginning. And then now, excitedly, I got to be involved with this Adult Services Task Force. It is the best group of people you could ever ask to work with. These people are dedicated and have been there and want to pass it forward. They want to pay it forward. They've been through it. They know some stuff, and they've been helped along, and that's what we all want to do. So that's a little bit about me and my family.
Yeah, and I agree. I will say, even though I get to spend a lot of time working with you, I've learned something new about you tonight. So I'm very excited about that. And I am going to be calling you when I'm having marital problems to see how to do them, because 41 years is unbelievable, and that's amazing. So kudos to you guys. And the advice you gave was awesome. So yeah, I think you're right. The group that we've been working with is unbelievable. And I think a couple of them, I do see Cindy said, hey, Robin, and she's one of the people in the task force. But we have what we did was we pulled together a group of families who were just really passionate about creating resources and services for our community. And I will tell you, Robin, I don't know if you remember our first meeting. Our first meeting, we pulled everyone together that was interested. And that meeting was really cathartic for some of you, because it was the first time we pulled people kind of together just to talk about their experiences, what they needed, what they were frustrated with, what they struggled with. And we thought, we have something here. Like we need to figure out, one, what are some resources that we can create, but how also can we create community where we can give people a place where they can come together and share their shared experiences. So before we get into some of that, can you just talk a little bit about some of the things that the Adult Task Force has already produced for the community under your leadership?
Well, I couldn't have done it without this great group, and they're so supportive of me, and when I have questions about things that I need help with now as well. So we started, like Amanda said, we had some some really good suggestions on things we needed to start with, because we really were starting from zero as far as the ASF with adult resources. So we really started, and Amanda can jump in here, I may not even remember it all, but we started with a transition checklist, which is on the website, and spent a good bit of time trying to get the items on that needed to be done. I think one thing I want to say here is one thing we're trying to do is make it so people don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Because that's what each of us on this adult task force have had to do. Each of us have had to find our way, and there's no reason for that, because we need a clearinghouse where people, there's either human resources to help people or, print resources to help. So we did the transition checklist. We also pretty soon did a checklist on what you need to ask if you're looking for a home, living outside the home for your child or your adult with Angelman syndrome. I do want to make the plug here, though, because I've had some questions about this. This adult task force has really two big things. One is we're working on resources for caregivers to support adults with AS. And as a subcategory of that, which is a big category that I'm most proud of, really, is the sibling portion of it. So we've really carved out a sibling portion. So they have their own time. They have special needs, really, from children through adulthood, our siblings do. And so we've carved them out, but then they're also a part of the major caregiver group. So
and they just met, right, Robin? They just had their first meeting.
They had their first meeting.
It was unbelievable, but you're right. They have a lot of questions.
They do. And so we have, I think, 4 or 5 siblings on our task force now. Leslie, who's a sibling, is the co-leader with me on this, and so we're trying to address both. But anyway, the point I wanted to make was, as far as caregivers, these adult resources are for wherever the adult with Angelman syndrome is living. So, we're spending some time doing some resources for outside the home, because that's been sorely needed. We haven't had that, but we're also hopefully, and with your help, everybody's help, meeting the need for no matter what the living situation is and no matter who the caregiver is.
Absolutely.
So I think those are the two big things. We're getting ready in October, which we'll talk about in a minute, to launch our own group that's going to meet every other month. We initiated Adult Family Champions.
Yep. I think we have 6 adult family champions, and I think we could put a plug in too. If there's other families that are out there that feel like they have a lot of expertise in raising an individual with Angelman syndrome who's an adult, reach out to us. We'd love to have more champions to help families through this process.
The other thing, we've got contact information on there now that if you have a question about an adult need, I'm getting an email about once a week now that we can help direct resources with. We're working on a FAQ document right now related to Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, that type thing.
Fun stuff.
For adults. That none of us want to deal with. And we're working on a couple of more documents. So we've got several things that are going to go up. I think Catherine and I are working on right now that'll go up within the next month. So overview.
Yeah, and I think we could also add that we've entered into a really beautiful and strong relationship with Protected Tomorrows with Mary Ann. Right. She does a lot of webinars for us, and she's unbelievable, and she really can help any family to go through the process of special needs trust, guardianship, all that ABLE accounts, all those things that are really stressful, and sometimes I just pretend like they don't exist because it stresses me out that I need to do it. We have tons of webinars on our website. If you go to the adult resources, you can find those there, but she's been fantastic as well.
She's the best.
I know, right?
And also, I'll go on and plug here. Man has heard me say this a million times, but I've been hearing Mary Ann Ellert speak pretty much since Paige was 5 years old. And I learn something every single time, and you take it in little bites, and it gets done. You have to be patient with yourself and give yourself a lot of grace on it.
So I have a few personal questions for you about your journey. But before we get to that, can you let everyone know what these adult groups are that are coming up and a little bit about them?
So we've got group it's let's see, where did I write that down? I've got it here, right? October 19th at 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern, we're going to have our first Angel Guardian meeting. We're really excited about that. It is for, I want to really stress this, is for any caregiver who has an adult family member with Angelman syndrome in any living situation. So we fully expect to have siblings on and parents obviously on, but it could be, whoever is involved in caregiving of an adult with Angelman syndrome. And we really have two major focuses to this group. And one is to connect with other caregivers. Mm-hmm. And the other is to provide resources. So in the way of, we'll start with what's everybody interested in knowing about, but then we will actually cover topics that people request. One thing we're going to do along with the sibling group is having difficult conversations. That's one of the first topics we're aiming towards having on how you have those difficult conversations between the sibling of the adult with Angelman syndrome and the parent. Planning for the future, essentially. Yeah.
Well,
so we're really excited about it.
We've heard from the siblings that can be a challenge of they know that they're going to possibly have the guardianship and the oversight of their sibling, but they're not prepared and they're scared and they don't know what to do. So I think that's going to be a really great conversation to have.
Absolutely. So that's the first meeting. We're going to have a general, we're going to point out resources that are available. We're going to see what people are interested in talking about in the future. And it'll be just, planning, formulating what we're going to do in the future. And we do plan on meeting every other month. Those months are listed on the Angelman syndrome site. And you can register. It's a little convoluted on how you get to the registration, but if you go to the adult resources, it has a little section that says the Angel Guardian meeting, and if you click the link, it takes you to sibling resources, and that's where you register. And the reason being,
we need to fix that. Make it easier.
The reason being, Catherine and I have talked about it actually twice now, but the reason being that we want siblings to be able to go to, and so it gets confusing on what's the best place to post a registration.
Sure.
So, but if you go to the adult resources and just scroll down just a little bit, you're going to see where you can register. So
that's awesome. Yeah. So before I ask a couple questions, a couple other things that I think is important to remind people. One, if you're interested in being a part of the adult task force, we're always looking for people. So all you have to do is go to our website and make an impact and go to committees, and that email will go directly to Robin and she can connect you. It's not a huge time commitment, but I tell you, they're great calls, and it's just a really, like I said, a cathartic time. And so I think it's a really great way to give back. And also, if there are things that you think we could be doing for this population at the ASF that we're not doing now, please let us know. The only way I can fix it is if I know that it's an issue. So let us know if there's something that we can be doing. A couple other things really quickly that we're concentrating on too when it comes to adults is we've really invested some research dollars on looking at some of these things, that some of these symptoms that happen when some of our individuals with Angelman syndrome get older. We want the best quality of life for our individuals with AS and for the caregivers. So we have some clinicians that are really looking at that. We're also working on creating the first ever adult transition clinic. So there's a lot to come on that, but we're really excited because one thing that we hear a lot is that our individuals with AS are having to go to children's doctors, and they're getting great service there, but once they turn of an adult age, they kind of get pushed to the adult neurologist, and it becomes a problem. So we're looking at that as well. So there's a lot of things to come down the pipeline, but please let myself or Robin know anything that we can do to support you guys as we move forward.
Hey guys, it's Amanda here. As you know, we're here for you, our community. If you have questions about any topics we can discuss in our podcast, or if you have ideas for future episodes, we'd love to hear from you. All you need to do is email me at dearamanda@angelman.org. Thank you so much for listening and your continued support of the Angelman Syndrome Foundation.
But Robin, I wanted the last few minutes that we have here, I just kind of wanted to, if it's okay, to ask you just some questions to help families who are either newly diagnosed or right where you are now. But let's say you're talking to a newly diagnosed parent. You know, Jackson was diagnosed about 3 years ago, and I will tell you, I sometimes have anxiety and panic attacks when I think about the future for Jackson. So what kind of advice can you give to newly diagnosed families on how to manage that anxiety and stress as they start thinking about the future and it gets really overwhelming?
So that's really hard. I'll be honest. I have anxiety attacks now, even with Paige at 28 with the future. And I'll tell you, my son, he went to the sibling meeting, a couple of weeks ago, and he texted me this weekend and said, "Hey, they said in that meeting that y'all need to have a binder or a lockbox that has all the important information in it. So do you? Because I just realized if you die in a minute, I'm being a mess."
Yeah.
So it continues on, but I think the way to manage it is because when your kids are young, I mean, y'all have a lot of career going on and a lot of activities and all that. We all did. And I think you just have to take it in small bites as you can. Of course, now when Paige was young, we didn't have all these webinars and, even COVID has helped that. So I think if you take things in as small a bites as you can take it and know this is a marathon, it is not, it's not a sprint. This is a lifetime commitment. And at each stage in your child's life with Angelman syndrome, there's different priorities. And take it a piece at a time. We're working right now with the ASF with binders so people will know. Catherine and I were talking about this yesterday. So if you know, okay, every time I get something related to this, I need to put it in here, then it's smaller bites than if you're trying to recreate it, so I think give yourself a lot of grace and say, this is going to get done. I have lots of people to help me with this. I'm not alone in this. I talked to a mom the other day. She'd never met anybody who had a child with Angelman syndrome. And that's so sad to me because we can help each other out so much. So reach out, get help from whomever. If you're getting anxious about it, do one little thing. And then you've made a movement towards it. So.
Yeah. I think that's great advice. I know that one thing that I've learned in this journey is that, especially with Jackson, when you have social media and you see all these kids excelling and your child may not be at that point, it can be very disheartening. And I know at least for our family, we're always like, okay, we're going to pick one thing to concentrate on. And instead of like, I want him to walk, I want him to use a fork, I want him to use a straw, I want him to use his AAC device. So we're going to work on all these things. And that's just really, really overwhelming for everyone, right? And so just, like you said, taking bite size and giving yourself grace. If one night you come home and you don't feel like using the communication device because you're tired, it's okay. Like,
it is absolutely okay.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I will say, Robin, in the chat right now, everyone's saying we love the binder idea. So we'll have to get moving quicker on that. I know we have the templates, so those should be coming out soon. And Teresa said, I love that give yourself some grace. And someone else said that they really wish that they had all these resources back in the day. And I can't. I often try to think and put myself in the shoes of you all and what you had when your kids were young. And what we have now. But I honestly, none of this would be happening, and none of us would be where we're at if it wasn't for our amazing individuals like you and the families that went ahead of us. Really.
Well, and I think I see Denise made that comment too. I think what I keep telling myself too is that I didn't have, we've had to recreate it, but the recreating, the doing it is helping me too, because I'm learning things I need to know in the next 2 years. So, you never stop learning in this. it just keeps on and on and on. So, there's people who've gone ahead of me. I see people on, Brenda's on here. That they've gone ahead of me. Paige is only 28. We have people way ahead of us. So we just have the technology to help us with it more now.
Yeah.
Too, But again, back to that if people start feeling, like, I'm getting anxious about this, what's going to happen? They just need to reach out to one of us other people and help us give you grace.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't do it for yourself, but somebody can say, listen, you're doing great, So
I love that. So I'm just going to send everyone to you.
Oh, there you go. I love it. Like I told Catherine this yesterday, I retired 3 years ago, and I love, I'm a workaholic.
Yes,
I love this work. I love this work.
You're doing a fantastic job, and honestly, I don't know what we would do without all of you. So, Jonathan just joined us. So, Jonathan, we love you. He wants to say hello.
Jonathan.
We want to say hello to Jonathan. So, Robin, as we wrap this up, I would love to hear from your perspective, if you could just tell me a little bit more about, like, since Paige has been in the home, like, what that has meant for you and your family and what that has meant for her. Because I think there is this really hard feeling of doing that, right? Like, and I know our community feels different. There's much diversity in the thought of this, and everyone's choice is everyone's choice. So we should honor and respect that. But for you, like, how was that process, and how is it now of making that?
So just to do it briefly, and once again, I want to say everybody is right in the decision they're making. There's no right or wrong in this. So there should not be any judging on anybody's decision on what they need to do in their situations. But I think people need to know what's available in order to make informed decisions. So what happened with us is, and it's really hard because I try not to get too emotional when I'm talking about it, but this is the hardest thing that my husband and I have ever done. And Paige is 28, and it's the hardest thing we ever did in our 20, we did it 3 years ago. So in 25 years, it was the hardest thing we've ever done, and it's still hard. But really what happened is our son started worrying of what would happen when something happened to us, and they are fully involved in Paige's care and know they will manage her care. They're going to be co-guardians when we're gone. But it was our family's decision that we didn't want our sons to have to make a decision, are we going to take Paige with us? We wanted to make that decision. And Paige deserved, in our opinion, to be as independent as possible herself. So when our sons really started thinking about it, we started thinking that all three of our children are equally important, and we had to make the best decision for all three of our children. And so we made the decision as a family to, an opportunity came available, and Woody and I, my husband and I, were 64 and 63. We're healthy. We could take care of Paige for a good bit longer, but we don't know what tomorrow holds. And we thought for our family, the worst thing that could have ever happened for Paige, for our family, is for us to have something to happen to us and Paige have to not just lose us, but to not know caregivers and move into a different situation, and for our sons to have the burden, honestly, of making huge decisions for their sister that really their parents should have made. And so while it's the hardest thing, and it's still the hardest thing, I talk to Paige's caregivers twice a day. We see her 2 to 3 times a week. We spend most of Saturday and Sunday with her. We can go in or out at any point we want to. We talk to her on video conference. But this requires a lot of trust. And it requires a lot of follow-up and making sure things are done. But we feel really comfortable that if something happened with us now, those caregivers love Paige, and she's special to them, and they know how to do things like wash her hair and give her medicine, and how to know if she's sick, and how to put her braces on correctly. And so anyway, that that's been our family's personal journey. It's not perfect, but honestly, it wasn't perfect at our house either.
Yeah.
And people have said, oh, you don't need to feel guilty about this. And I'll be honest with you, Woody and I have not felt 1 ounce of guilt because we didn't do it for us.
Yeah.
We did it for our children, Paige, Ben, and Drew. And since we did it for them, we don't have any guilt. If this is torture to us, and people I think in society, oh, now you get to do what you want to do, and all that. That is not what it's about for any parent that's making this decision.
Sure,
it's each family trying to make the best decision for their family. That's what it is, honestly. And we need to support families no matter what decision they make.
Yeah, I love that.
Anyway, that's it. I'm sorry. I get.
No, are you kidding me?
It's horrible.
There's no reason to be sorry. Like I said, I appreciate you being so open and vulnerable with us, because I think I can't imagine, because obviously I'm not at that stage, but I think about that stage and think about, I love that you brought up the fact that she deserves that independence. And that's what I pray the most for Jackson, that he just has some independence, right? And so I'm sure she loves being there, and I'm sure it's working out. It's wonderful.
She loves it.
Great.
She tells us bye, I'll say, are you ready to go back to your house? And she says yes. She went in the door, she went in the door Saturday night when we took her back, and her caregiver met us at the door, and Paige just put her arms around her and just hugged her, and that's what you want. That's what you work towards. And again, it's not perfect. We're all the time, trying to take care of little things. But anyway, thanks for asking the question, because it's hard to talk about, but it's an important thing to say.
I agree.
You have to be honest.
Yeah, and I think also, I think it's important for everyone to understand that everyone's journey is different. I mean, even when it comes down to the state by state, what you can do, like, you know what I mean, when it comes to finding homes and whatever. So everyone's journey, especially with transition, is going to be really challenging. And it's going to be different for everyone. You're right. It's a family's choice. And so we just need to support people in that. I will tell you, the comments are blowing up about how much everyone loves you. You're an inspiration. I love you. Thank you for sharing your story. You have me crying. But it's important for us. I mean, especially for someone is still new into this journey, it's important to hear that. And I think that the blessing is that you've been able to walk that walk and now share it with us. And you're using your experience to help other families. And there's nothing more beautiful than that. I mean, it's unbelievable, the work that you're doing at the foundation. I hope you know that.
Well, I mean, thanks to the foundation, because if it wasn't for y'all, we wouldn't be where we are as a family, honestly. So you need to give back when you can. And, I couldn't give back as much as I wanted to for a very long time, but now I can. So
yep, and we'll see. Hopefully, you did a good plug for the conference, and hopefully, we'll see all these amazing people in August 2022. So we can all come back together and give everyone big hugs. But I am way past my time with you. I'm so sorry I've kept you longer. But just a couple other last minute things to remind you: if you want to be a part of the Adult Service Task Force, go to our website. If you want to be a part of those chats where you can have these amazing conversations and these honest conversations that Robin and I just had with other people that understand your journey and your walk, make sure you sign up for those. And if there's anything else that we can do for you as a community, let Robin and I know. If anything that I've learned from this task force is when you ask them to do stuff, it gets done. And I love that. So Robin and
great group of folks.
Yeah. And you'll have to help me. So Cindy is part of it. Carol, right? And Sherry
Caspert. Who am I missing? Cindy. I'm missing somebody big. Oh, I know Dawn Bly. Dawn's
Bly.
really.
Yes. We have a lot of great people on this.
Yeah, who like we said, we usually start the beginning of every task force meeting with about 10 minutes of supporting each other. So,
which is good. That's what we need.
Right.
So, Robin, thank you so much for being on with us tonight. I told you by the end of the night I probably would have my Southern accent back, but I think I did good. So
yeah, there's worse things than a Southern accent.
I totally agree. I miss mine so much. Well, I love you so much, Robin. Thank you so much. And thank you for everyone that joined us tonight. We hope you enjoyed the All Things with AS. Next month, I should know off the top of my head what next month is. I think we're talking with a couple of our researchers, which will be great. So I'm going to ask questions from my perspective of not knowing anything about research and science. So it's going to be one of those fun, like, question and answers. So if you don't understand much about research and science, you don't want to miss this. So thank you guys. We hope you have a wonderful night. Robin, we love you, and we'll see everybody soon.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the ASF podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to support us, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating or review. And please don't forget to subscribe.